Hi, hello. We are here for the first ever episode of True Crime and Crochet. So I'm not actually going to be crocheting. I'm actually going to be taking out all my yarn from this skein, and I'm going to manually roll it into a ball. So hi, hello, welcome to repetition. So this video is going to be, this is my first foray into a field that I have loved forever. I've always been true crime obsessed. I don't know why. But, so we're going to start off with the McStay family. Now, this was the first case that, like, in adulthood had me in a chokehold for years. Like, I'm talking about, like, every 3-4 months, I would go on Google, look for updates when I found out about it. And the first place I found out about it was actually on the show Disappeared. Great show if you're into true crime. Anyway, so that's where I first found out about it. And I don't know why, but there was something about this case that just, I had dreams about it and nightmares about it. It was so eerie to me. Like, it messed me up. And at that point, I was heavily invested in true crime. So that I really don't get messed up by a lot of cases anymore. But this one, chokehold. So, as I previously stated, ADHD fam, I want you to use my content as a timer, okay? That shower curtain you've been meaning to put up for 3 months, that skincare, doing your nails, cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the kitchen, whatever, okay? I want you to put me on in the background. Go do that thing you need to do. I am your body double, okay? Just pretend I'm in the room with you, all right? And we're gonna get shit done while learning about a story, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Thank you for being here. Love ya. So, this is the McStay family, all right? So we've got dad/husband, Joseph, wife/mom, Summer, okay? And they have two little kids, two little precious baby boys, okay? And they were real little. They were 3 and 4, okay? So here in the back, we've got Gianni and then Joseph Jr., aka Bubba, here, the little guy right here in the front. So in 2010, yeah, we're going way back. In 2010, Joseph and his wife, Summer, and their 2 kids lived in Fallbrook, California, okay? And with their boys, obviously. Now, they had just moved to the area from basically the beach. And I remember seeing in the Disappeared segment or the documentary there that Summer had a really hard time moving away from the ocean to a more suburban area, but it was also that they could save up some money and then eventually move back to the beach and use the house they were going to move into in the suburbs as like a rental property. So there was a plan for it, right? So everybody's acclimating to this new house, whatever. So Joseph runs a company called Earth Inspired Products. Now, this is a company that they built decorative fountains. Now, this company was he was very successful, like incredibly successful. Props to Joseph. And Summer worked as a licensed real estate agent, okay? So, now here's a thing, like, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, hang on. So essentially what happens is everybody, the whole, their extended family, everybody thinks everything is fine. They're just busy. They're not contacting us. They're not calling or checking in with us because they're busy. They're moving into a new house. They're still getting things settled. They've got 2 little, very active boys. It's cool, right? No worries. However, Joseph and Summer were the kind of couple that really stayed in contact with their family, like really stayed in contact. Summer's sister had just had a baby and there were complications, and she was really close to her sister. And so it was just odd that they hadn't heard. Family hadn't heard from them. It was odd. A little bit weird. So after a few days, family starts trying to get in contact with them, calling them, hey, just checking in, making sure everything is going okay and you guys are doing good. You good? No response. No response. No response. So from the time February 4th to February 13th, nobody's heard from the family, okay? So on February 13th, Michael McStay, Joseph's brother, was like, no, man, no more. Like, this is weird. I'm not okay with this. I'm going to go see what's up. So he heads over to the house and he notices that the dogs are in the backyard. Now, the dogs, especially one dog, Bear, was Summer's, she called that dog her first baby, right? Very attached. They were hungry. They'd been out. They were not outside dogs, but they were outside in the backyard. Just very weird, very suspicious. Anyway, so Michael makes his way. He somehow is able to break in to the house just to make sure, to see what the heck was going on, right? So he breaks in and he's looking around at the house, and it just looks like it's this very eerie scene where there was still like the kids' meals and bowls of uneaten popcorn were kind of all over the place. It looked like a regular busy house with kids, right? It was messy, cluttered, whatever. They were clearly still doing some work, etc., etc. But it was like they just literally vanished, like something plucked them right from the living room, because there was no evidence of anything except for this old expired food. Clearly nobody had been in the house for several days. The dogs were outside and hungry, and it was eerie. And immediately Michael knew something was wrong. So, not wanting to be alarmist though, Michael waited to phone the police for 2 days until February 15th, okay? So he phones the police on February 15th and is like, hey, I really think something happened to my brother and my sister-in-law and their 2 kids. Here's the situation. Please help. On February 19th, officers arrived at the home with a search warrant so that they could legally gain entry, right? Just to see what's up, see what Michael's talking about, and was it really as creepy and as weird as he said. So the cops get in there and they're like, okay, clearly there has been some sort of a hasty departure. Like I said, they found the kids' popcorn bowls on the sofa, and they also found a carton of eggs that was left on the counter. So it looked like they had just picked up and left in a huge rush. So the cops start investigating. Lovely when they actually do their jobs, just saying. If you watch a lot of true crime, you know that they sit on a lot of stuff. Anyway, so the cops start asking the neighbors, have you noticed anything? When was the last time you saw them? Has there been any weirdness, et cetera, et cetera? And the cops actually are able to gain some surveillance footage from a neighbor, but it only caught the bottom 18 inches of a car passing by, but it was thought to be the family's car, which was also missing, okay? But that catches the camera on February 4th at 7:47 p.m. So the cops thought that could have been the family's Isuzu Trooper. Wasn't completely positive, but was like more than likely, like it's their car. However, because the video only caught the bottom 18 inches, they could not see who was actually in the vehicle. So you couldn't really call it like a confirmed sighting, but it was kind of like the best thing that they had to go on at the time. So they're able to access phone records after a while, and they found that Joseph on February 4th had actually made a phone call to Chase Merritt, who was a business associate, like a business partner of Joseph's. Enter this douchebag. Foreshadowing. I know. I'm a terrible storyteller. Anyway. So, cops find that Joseph placed this call to Chase, this business partner of his. And so, cops asked Chase about it, and he's like, yeah, like I saw that he had called me, but I ignored it because I was watching a movie, and I just didn't really want to talk, and just wanted to be by myself and hang out, watch a movie. So as they're continuing on with this investigation, okay, they find that the family's missing car, the 1996 Isuzu Trooper, right, had been towed from a parking lot very near the Mexico border. It was believed to have been parked there on the 8th between 5 and 7:30 p.m. But remember, the McStays have been missing since February 4th. So from February 4th to February 8th, nobody knows where that car was. Are you creeped out yet? You should be. Hi, hello. Hello, welcome back to part 2. If you are using my content as it is intended, ADHDers, okay, or anybody really who needs to get stuff done, procrastinators, okay, if you are using this content as a timer, which I hope that you are, because I want to serve everybody. I want to serve all my people. Anyway, if you are using these videos as a timer, please reset, okay? Go find something else to do. Now, something else that you can conquer while you're listening to me. So, obviously, it's like this mind effing, right? Because, like, even now when I talk about it and I think about the scene, like, in the house, it's still, I literally have chills. I literally have chills. And because it was just so, I don't know, there was something about it that felt so creepy and so off to me. It was almost like walking into like when you look at the photos, or, you know, when you watch the documentary on, I think it's on Discovery Plus now. No, it's on HBO Max. But if you watch it, highly recommend, by the way. It's creepy and it's weird, and it's like, you know what it reminded me of? You know, I think it was the colony of Roanoke, when like everybody disappeared, and it's still a mystery to this day what happened to them. There's speculation, whatever. That's what it felt like to me, okay? Like, just, creepy. Anyway, so the case gets a lot of attention because it's so creepy and weird, these disappearances, right? Just wild. So, the case gets a lot of play, all right? So anyway, so there's a radio host named Rick Baker, okay, who gets really into the case, and he actually publishes a book, because you have to remember, this family disappeared and no one knew what happened to them for several years. It was just bizarre. So anyway, this radio host, Rick Baker, decides that he's going to write a book. And in his book, he actually queried, or, you know, kind of put forth this idea, this theory, that Summer was the one who actually annihilated her family and then went off to Mexico to live a happy little life. Suffice to say, when the truth came out, he offered a refund to anyone who had bought his book prior to November 2013, which is when the remains were found. But we'll get to that later. So some other theories, or like the main theory really, was that they left voluntarily, because when forensics was looking at the computers, the family computers, they found searches for what documents do children need to travel to Mexico, Spanish lessons, and so it looked like maybe they had escaped, right? Escaped their life, just left everything behind and decided to start over. But they really didn't know how, because they hadn't touched any of their bank accounts. So again, weird, right? Now, it did come to light that Summer had actually changed her name legally twice. And so that was kind of a red flag for investigators. They were like, ooh, like, what is she into? Is she into this? Is she into that? Anyway, it was perfectly harmless. She was born under the name Virginia. Never felt like it suited her. Changed her name to Summer. Changed her last name one other time before she got married. And she just, I don't know, she just was playing around with the idea of identity, I think, which I love. Love that. Love that. Anyway. So because the car was found so close to the Mexican border, obviously the cops are like, okay, let's check out, you know, surveillance footage of the, you know, of people entering Mexico. So they start looking at the footage, and they think that they see the family crossing into Mexico. And so they get in contact with Joseph's mom and his brother, and they show them the footage, and they're like, does this look like them? The mother, Joseph's mother, she thought it was. And granted, that may have been wishful thinking, right? I think honestly, I would probably want to think the same thing, that they were just off living an amazing life, and, you know, something happened and they took off, and it was what they had to do. So I probably would be in the same realm as her, always having that hope, right? However, Joseph's brother, Michael, did not think it was the family. He was like, I don't think so. I just don't think so. And so it was not anywhere near conclusive, but a potential possibility that they had just taken off and that really was them on the video surveillance heading into Mexico. So as the years go by, there's actually a lot of unconfirmed sightings of the family around the world. And so the police eventually contact Interpol and ask, if anybody from this family travels through Europe, let us know. But there's like this big hyper focus, right, obviously, on this Mexico theory. But all in all, the family, Joseph's family especially, and Summer's sister, really, really doubted that they would take off to Mexico to live there. Because the family had talked about it. They had talked about going to Mexico, and Summer and Joseph both were like, no, like we really want to avoid Mexico as much as possible. Like, yeah, it's convenient for travel and stuff, but it's just not safe. Like, we don't feel safe taking our boys there. We don't feel safe taking our family there, because at the time, and I'm sure still, there was some major violence issues related to drug and gang wars. And like I said, the money thing, right? They didn't take any money out, and they had well over $100,000 in their bank accounts. And when the cops spoke to Summer's sister about this theory, she said Summer's passport had expired and she hadn't gotten around to renewing it. So how would she even be let into the country? So now moving on to the douche. Chase Merritt, the business partner of Joseph's, right? So the police are like at a loss, and they're like, we don't know. So they decide that they're going to focus their investigative efforts on Chase Merritt, because he was actually the first person to alert that he didn't know where Joseph was. He just thought it was weird that he hadn't heard from him, being his business partner and all, right? Now, he was also the last known person to have any contact with them. Remember that phone call, right? That Joseph had placed right before they disappeared. So according to California state records, Chase Merritt was not a good guy. He had a bunch of felonies. Oh yeah. Most notably, he had felony convictions for burglary and receiving stolen property. At the time, his most recent felony conviction was actually in 2001, about 9 years before the McStays disappeared. And that conviction was for burglary and theft. Where he took $32,000 worth of welding and drilling equipment from the San Gabriel Valley. And it was actually a company called San Gabriel Valley Ornamental Ironworks. And that was in Monrovia, California. So an acquaintance of Merritt's who had worked with him told a San Diego reporter when the family initially went missing. This acquaintance told the reporter, I think the police should look at him and anyone associated with him. So in 2013, 3 years after the McStays disappeared, and the cops are really starting to focus their investigation on him, right? He's kind of like their main suspect at this point, or their main person of interest, I should say. So Merritt does eventually admit that he had met with Joseph for about an hour on the day they disappeared. Now, Merritt, in his statement, said he had already passed a polygraph test and that he had no information that could possibly help the police in locating the family. One of the worst things that I came across when I was researching this case to do this video is they had interviewed Joseph's father, Patrick, and asked if he thought that Chase Merritt may have been involved in his family's disappearance. And he said, quote, I have to have faith in Chase because I have to have faith in my son. I believe that Joseph trusted and believed in Chase. Do I think Chase is involved? I hope not. And I really don't think so. See you in part 3. Hi, hello, welcome back to part 3. If you are hanging out with me and doing your ADHD, your neurospicy stuff, please, please, please reset the timer and go do something else, okay? Go do something else. So, continuing on. In January 2014, Chase Merritt, yeah, that guy, Chase Merritt, said that he might write a book about the family because he was alleging that Summer had anger issues and that Joseph had actually been battling, this really bad illness, but it was a totally like mysterious disease, and nobody knew what it was, and he hadn't told anybody in his family about it. Okay. Now, to be fair, Joseph's family did confirm that he had a mysterious illness, and that Summer, I can say this as a Hispanic woman myself, as a true Hispanic woman, as a true Latina, she was she was a little bit possessive of her husband. Didn't want nobody stealing him. We get it. We support it. We get it. But they responded to Merritt's allegation that she was somehow responsible for Joseph's illness as really ridiculous. And they said that it was completely unfounded. And it really brought some discomfort, right, to Joseph's family, because, I mean, even his father was like, I truly believe she loved my son and would never do anything to harm him. I truly believe that she really loved him. So on and on it goes for years, okay? Now, on November 11th, 2013, a motorcyclist found 4 sets, I'm gonna cry, found 4 sets of human remains. Told you, this is a case near and dear to my heart, that were buried in 2 shallow graves near Victorville, California. They first informed Joseph's father, and 2 days later, 2 sets of the remains were positively identified as Joseph and Summer. The deaths were obviously ruled a homicide, and San Bernardino County said that they believed that the family died of blunt force trauma to the head inside the home. But that was all they said at the time. They refused to discuss any specifics of the death or to provide any sort of motive. So they've been found, and they're returned home, and the remains are taken care of by the family. And then nothing for a while. Then the following year, almost a year to the day, November 5th, 2014, Chase Merritt is arrested. So you're probably asking yourself, what finally led, right, to him actually being arrested? Well, they found Merritt's DNA inside of the recovered car. He was charged with all 4 counts of unaliving, and the district attorney in the case sought the ultimate penalty. Listen to this. So, because when I found out about this, I was like, what? Not funny, but I'm enraged. So, in July of the following year, 2015, Merritt's defense attorney requested that the case be dismissed. Why? Because of the wording used by the prosecution when the charges were filed. Oh, did your feelings get hurt? Now, according to the autopsy report, it was found that all 4 were beaten until they were unalived. And the prosecution and the police alleged and truly believe that the object used was a sledgehammer because it was found in the grave with Summer and one of her sons. And investigators would go on to state that they firmly believed that the McStay family was tortured before they were unalived. So when it came down to actual motive, the prosecution put forth the case that Merritt did this purely for financial gain. Merritt had a pretty substantial gambling problem. He had written checks totaling more than $21,000 from Joseph's business bank account after they disappeared. In the days after the disappearance, not only did he write these checks for totaling over $21,000, but it was also found he went on a gambling spree and lost several thousand more dollars. Yep. So the trial, right? The trial was delayed because Merritt was constantly firing his attorneys and trying to be able to represent himself. Spoken like a true narcissist. Now remember, he's arrested at the tail end of 2014, right? November. By February 2016, this dude had gone through 5 attorneys. So after several delays, the case finally goes to trial in January of 2019. Now, in June of that same year, that's when the verdict came out. Five and a half months later. And needless to say, this man was found guilty AF. Thank the Lord. That was on June 10th. On June 24th, the jury also recommended that Merritt get the unaliving penalty. The court, wisely in my opinion, upheld this recommendation, and in January of the following year, so January 2020, he was sentenced to be unalived. Now, there is a somewhat newer documentary, not somewhat, definitely newer, more recent documentary on Investigation Discovery that was released May 22nd, 2022. All those numerology twos, am I right? Anyway, so, and it was really, I highly recommend if this, case seems like somewhat intriguing to you. And it, like I said, it definitely was one that had me in a chokehold for years. Definitely recommend that documentary. It is long, okay? So just ADHDers, pace yourself, okay? But it's really good. It's called Two Shallow Graves. And the show actually went into really, great detail. Regarding witnesses, evidence, and theories regarding the case, but it also showed the trial. And what was interesting about the way that they presented the trial, I liked it in my opinion, because they presented the trial, the documentarians presented the trial from both the perspective of the defense and the prosecution. So it didn't really lean one way or the other, but I guarantee y'all, you take one look at the evidence and it's like, wow, dude, y'all see that? Wow. So that is the story of what happened to the McStay family. And needless to say, I hope that they are resting in peace. They will always have a little peace in my heart. You can see I'm getting teary already. And I'm so happy that their remains were found and that they are back home where their family can be with them as often as they like. And I am so, so grateful that they've been able to go home. So, yeah. All right. Well, I hope you guys had fun hanging out with me. And yeah, if you're still around and you haven't yet, please hit the follow or the subscribe button, depending on where you're watching from. And I'm sure I'll see you very soon. Love you. Stay safe out there. Make good choices. Okay, bye.